This story begins in a rural mountainside village where a self-proclaimed humble old man named Beryl Gardinant is being trained by a much older man who is his father. The old man is sick of Beryl practicing his swordsmanship, even though he's now the master at their dojo, and advises him to focus on other things like marriage. As the old man doesn't have any grandchildren to look after in his last few days, Beryl ignores his dad's advice and then heads to his dojo to teach his students. Beryl's dojo is a backwater dojo that has been teaching sword skills for generations after generations. Beryl himself was born at this dojo, and for as long as he remembers, he has been honing his swordsmanship with wooden swords. Although one might consider the endless routine of eat, parry, and repeat pretty boring, Beryl enjoys it as he's able to pass his skills down to other young motivated individuals. He doesn't have mad skills, but still he is happy as a teacher because a number of his students have gone on to be successful in life. He comes back home from the dojo in the late afternoon and once again is pestered by his father to get married. The old man doesn't think it is a big request for him to get to see his grandchildren before getting isekai'd. He turns to his wife seeking her support, but instead of taking his side, the old lady takes her son's side, saying that sooner or later he will find someone to his liking. I mean, lady, your son's 50 or something. The only thing he'll find is women with menopause unless he's into younger girls, which is worse. It seems I've jinxed it, 'cause moments later, Lucia Citrus, a young lady who's Beryl's former student, comes knocking at his door. Lucia here is the commander of the royal knights of this kingdom, and since she's a product of Beryl's dojo, both Beryl and his father take pride in being her teachers. In any case, the reason she's come here today is to inform her former teacher that she too has now started to teach swordsmanship and has recommended Beryl as a special instructor for the knights, which has been approved by the imperial order. Beryl doesn't believe his ears. How can a village-born loser like him get such a big-shot opportunity all of a sudden? He can't refuse this offer because if he does, the kingdom will take it as a huge disrespect and consequently he might have to face the death penalty. Before Beryl can come to a decision, Lucia also lets him know that he'll have to head to the royal capital with her right now to discuss further about this. Beryl's father encourages him, telling him to get on the horse already, find a suitable wife at the capital, and only return with his future grandchildren. The old man also subtly suggests Beryl marry Lucia, to which Beryl becomes offended as he believes that their age gap is too high for them to engage in a romantic relationship. However, judging from Lucia's flustered reaction, I don't think she minds their age gap. She doesn't make a comment regarding this matter and sits quietly for the rest of their meeting there. Shortly after, both the master and the student are on their journey to the capital, and Beryl, being the talkative one, asks Lucia about the sword she's carrying which he gifted to her during her graduation at his dojo. It's not like he gave her any special treatment or anything. He gives all of the graduates at his dojo swords as gifts, but it looks like Lucia took too much of a liking to her sword. Regardless, Beryl thinks Lucia should get herself a better one since she is a commander now, but Lucia is fixated on using only that one. Anyway, Lucia expresses her excitement that the small-town swordmaster is finally going to be inspiring the people at the royal capital. Beryl, however, remains completely oblivious, thinking of himself as just a regular guy, and brushes Lucia off, assuming she's only saying that to flatter him. Lucia continues to shower her master with compliments and subtly tells him that she'll do her best to become worthy of him, which he doesn't even hear because he's too old. He simply responds by asking Nani. They arrive at the capital, where Beryl spends the night alone at a hotel cause it's too soon, and in the next morning he meets Lucia for his official introduction before the Knights of the Liberian Order. As the commander, Lucia gathers all of the knights and proudly introduces Beryl to everyone, saying he's on a whole different level compared to her. The flattery, which is actually true, is a bit much for Beryl to handle, but he still looks forward to working with everyone and promises them that he'll do his best to share his skills with them. While most of the knights clap and seem excited to have their new instructor, two individuals among them are not too pleased. Later, Lucia informs Beryl about his duties, telling him that he'll only need to come to the capital 3 to 4 times a month to train the knights, which should work well for him since he'll still be able to teach at his home dojo. While the two are talking, Karuni, a knight who was also one of Beryl's students, comes running over to greet her master. Lucia tells Beryl that just like Karuni, there are many others here who are eager for his tutelage. Hearing this, Beryl feels happy and considers himself lucky that he'll get to teach his former students again. After a long day, Beryl returns home and finds that one of his former students, Randrid, has come to visit his father, bringing along his wife and newborn child. Speaking of the old man, he doesn't even look at Beryl, demanding that he leave immediately and only return once he's had a child like Randrid. By the way, Randrid was once an adventurer and has only recently retired to settle down with his wife in the village. But the question remains, why has he come to the old man's house? The old man reveals to Beryl that since Beryl will have to stay at the capital from now on, he's decided to appoint Randrid as the new dojo master, making it clear that Beryl's stay in the capital is now inevitable. While walking in the streets of Baltrain, Master Beryl tells Alucia about his encounter with his master, who had chased him out of his old place. He apologizes for making her join him on his house hunt, and she doesn't see it as much as an inconvenience. Being so broke, he hopes they can find an affordable inn. Since he was new in town, he believes that Alucia will help him figure something out. Just then, she offers him a chance to live at her place, but he doesn't consider it an option. Shortly after, she asks that they go for lunch and he agrees. He assumes that this could be somewhat of a date. While they proceed to look for an inn, Alucia encounters someone she knows. Even though Alucia should be the one who is ashamed, Beryl felt uncomfortable that his presence would cause people to speak so lowly of Alucia, who happened to be the knight commander. He hides his face with a map in his hands. Turning around, Alucia sees Surina and cautions her not to be nosy. She then chooses to ignore the red head with a big heart and walk away. This comes off as being rude to Surina, who goes ahead to block the way. At this moment, Surina turns her sights to Beryl. She seeks to know who Alucia is calling her master and brings down the map to reveal his face. When she does so, Beryl immediately recognizes the plate on her neck and figures that she is a black rank adventurer. In a shocking turn of events, Surina recognizes Beryl as her master. Hearing her call him master, Beryl is shocked. Meanwhile, Surina tries to remind him about the time when he took her in 20 years ago and taught her how to use a sword. At the mention of that experience, Beryl is reminded about who she is. He remembers how scared she was to learn how to use the sword and is pleased by how well she has grown. Surina, on the other hand, reveals that she has always wanted to reach out to him, but had never gotten the chance to do so. She apologizes to him for this, but he is so happy to see her. After that, she seeks to know why he is in town with someone as pathetic as Alucia. Before he could give a response, Alucia reveals that he was appointed as special instructor to the Liberian Order and is looking for a place to stay. Hearing this, Surina is pissed that the clueless Alucia would be the one to help her master. The two get into a heated argument and eventually find somewhere suitable for Master Beryl together. After settling down, he asks that they both leave and they bid their farewells. While they do so, he watches them and acknowledges that it feels good to have his old students take care of him. The next day, at the Liberian Order, two students engage in a duel, and one of them ends up smashing the other student's sword to bits, forcing him to surrender. Just then, Alucia arrives with Master Beryl and announces that he would be instructing them today before she could go on any further. The student who had won the duel earlier steps forward. He claims that it takes a certain level of strength to be an instructor for the Liberian Order and asks that Beryl shows him how skillful he is. Hearing this, Beryl wonders who the hell this loudmouth is, and Alucia states that he is the vice commander of the order, Henblitz Drought. Furthermore, Henblitz asks to have a duel with Master Beryl and Alucia hurriedly agrees, since it would give her master the chance to school these clueless kids. Due to this, Beryl is forced to accept it, while Master Beryl and Henblitz face each other ready to start. The other students are left wondering if he would be able to come out victorious since they have never seen him fight. They even refer to him as an old man who can't teach them anything. On the other hand, Henblitz believes that Alucia only brought Viral here because he was her former master. He believes that Beryl's skills are washed up and all that's left is an old man. Even Beryl doesn't seem confident in his skill, but he hopes he doesn't lose so miserably in order not to put Alucia to shame. When the duel starts, Henblitz charges at Beryl, and he spends time defending the attacks and trying to understand the young lad's fight style. Seeing this, the students believe it is only a matter of time before Henblitz finishes Beryl off. However, Beryl seizes the chance to swerve off one of Henblitz's attack and hit him slightly on the chin. Even after doing this, he is worried that he didn't harm the young boy. But Henblitz still has the guts to talk shit. The two reset their stance and continue the duel. After a heated battle, Henblitz decides to finish him off with a powerful signature move of his, hoping that this would get him the victory. Every student seeing this believed that Beryl is done for, but he already figured out Henblitz's attack. Upon landing it, Beryl dodges it swiftly and taps him at the back with his sword. This shocks Henblitz to his bones. He concedes defeat and commends Beryl's extraordinary skill. He even asks Beryl to teach him the technique he used to avoid his attacks, but Beryl assures him that they would eventually get to that. Later that night, they all gather for some drinks to celebrate Beryl's appointment. While drinking, Henblitz apologizes for his rudeness, but Beryl doesn't see this as a problem. He believes it is only right to test his potential master's skills. Meanwhile, Alucia keeps rubbing it in Henblitz's face that Master Beryl is definitely strong, as she is so confident in her master's skills. Back at Beryl's old house, his master meets with Randrid, who is pleased that he was able to help Beryl get out in the world. He acknowledges that he has never seen a better swordsman than Beryl, and his master is pleased that Beryl would finally get the opportunity to see the outside world. The next morning at the Knights Academy, the young pupils have already started training under their new coach. Beryl carefully takes notes on everyone's stance, posture, and attack style, pointing out their mistakes and showing exactly why he's been appointed as their special instructor. He demonstrates how one should read the movements of their opponents and gives them little insights that might come in handy in many situations. Although Beryl believes his insights aren't that good, everyone still listens with their mouths wide open, like they've just heard some divine message. He continues to teach his ever-interested students, and after an earnest day at work, he steps out of the training room when Henblitz approaches him, thanking him for his contributions. Beryl's old student Karuni also rushes over after spotting him, asking if he's free this afternoon as she wants to show him around the capital. Assuming Beryl doesn't know much about the area, Beryl admits that all he does is come here early in the morning and leave straight for home after work. Hearing this, Henblitz agrees with Karuni and encourages him to go out with her. So Beryl finally agrees, and Karuni runs off to get dressed for the unofficial date. In the meantime, Beryl feels happy that he's settling in well here, only a week into being an instructor. On the other side, Alucia is currently having a meeting with the higher-ups discussing the Liberian Order's plans for the coming period. She manages to convince them of her upcoming initiatives and also assures them about the special instructor Beryl, telling them he exceeds all expectations. After attending the meeting, she stares out the window with her mind full of thoughts, mostly about Beryl and his well-being, because she's obsessed with him. She goes into detail about why she went to such lengths to get Beryl out of that backwater village, telling us about the time back in her childhood when she and her parents moved to the neighboring town of Beryl's village. One day, they visited Beryl's dojo after hearing a lot of good things about it. Seeing young Alucia, Beryl encouraged her and her parents to get her admitted so she could learn how to protect herself, because unlike the large cities, the rural areas around here weren't safe. Alucia, who was probably 10 years old at most, and Beryl, who still looked like he was freaking 40, were introduced for the first time. Yet Beryl managed to come across as so kind and humble that Alucia immediately agreed to train at his dojo. She started off practicing parrying under his supervision, and also learned to move efficiently. As that too was the trait of a master swordsman, her balance wasn't great, her strength was worse, but gradually she got better at everything and even grew stronger than her then rival, Randrid, who now manages the dojo. The only thing that encouraged her to keep going was Beryl's praises and compliments, even for the smallest things, and she always looked forward to training with him. Once she got a proper hold of her sword, Beryl decided to test her attack skills and engaged in a mock duel with her. As he took his stance, Alucia became confused. Unable to find any openings to strike him, she wondered why, but chose not to overthink it and charged at Beryl, who blocked her attack effortlessly and disarmed her within seconds. Although she lost, Beryl praised her for having good innate instincts, telling her she moved in at the right time, unlike others who would attack randomly. More days passed with her training, and one day a mock tournament was held between the students of Beryl's dojo and a neighboring town's dojo. Alucia showed just how talented she was by moving as lightly as a feather. She defeated her opponents with ease, and after Beryl's entire team decimated the rival dojo. Alucia, on their way back, questioned if they were too overpowered. She pointed out that Beryl himself had defeated the opposing dojo master, but Beryl claimed that he wasn't strong at all. What irked him was the fact that Alucia was focusing on winning or losing instead of what truly mattered, learning how to protect herself. Alucia suddenly noticed that her hair clip was missing and figured she had left it at the other dojo, so she rushed back there alone. As she entered the place, a group of male students from that dojo appeared from the shadows, with the one in the middle holding her hair clip. She tried to take it from him, but he threw it to the back and told her to go fetch it if she had the guts. They mocked her, saying a weak woman like her might win in a mock duel, but in real life she would never beat them. Alucia kept her calm, choosing not to engage in a meaningless fight, but the guy attacked her anyway. Fortunately, Beryl arrived just in time, tanking the hits and disarming the punk instantly. He then picked up Alucia's hair clip from the ground. Just as the dojo's master entered, just as hot-headed as his foolish students, but instead of acting irrationally, the master knelt down before Beryl, apologizing and begging him to overlook his students' misconduct. Beryl didn't think such a gesture was necessary and resolved the issue quickly before leaving with Alucia. Alucia kept staring at her hair clip, feeling guilty that her master had to take a hit because of her. She blamed herself for everything, but Beryl made it clear that she wasn't at fault. It was actually his own carelessness for letting her go alone to a dangerous place. Still, he was glad things turned out fine and told Alucia to move on from it. She, as a child, was obviously traumatized by what almost happened and began crying uncontrollably. Beryl, having no experience in taking care of children, tried to cheer her up by offering food and other things, but the tears just kept falling. This incident only made Alucia stronger mentally, and as she continued her training, she eventually became skilled enough to block and defeat Beryl in a mock duel. With nothing left to teach her, Beryl officially graduated her from his dojo and gifted her a sword as her graduation present, although Alucia believed she was nowhere near Beryl's level. She accepted his decision and took the sword, despite her heart telling her not to leave. After stepping out of his shadow, Alucia joined the Liberian Order to show the world that her master's swordsmanship was second to none. After passing the entrance exams with flying colors, she proved her level by not only defeating the other candidates, but also taking down the examiners, making her realize that if even they couldn't beat her, they were nowhere near her master's level. She knew exactly how oblivious Beryl was to his own talents, so she took it upon herself to show the world who the true master swordsman was. With that goal in mind, she worked her way up to the rank of commander and achieved immense success along the way. Fast forward to the present, she now has enough authority to become an instructor herself. It's been 10 years since she left the dojo, which, according to my rough calculations, makes her around 22 years old or so, and Beryl's still technically a pedophile. Although, in his defense, he's not the one chasing after girls, it's the girls who keep getting attracted to him. But anyway, Alucia had witnessed the fight between Beryl and Henblitz and came to the conclusion that Beryl was now even stronger, with sharper skills than ever before. She believes her master deserves far more than just the job of a special instructor. Some might say she's going overboard, but she doesn't think so. So she heads to Beryl's training room to give him the undisclosed news. Unfortunately, Beryl has already left for the day, according to Henblitz, who also mentions how amazed he was by Beryl's knowledge and insights earlier. Alucia asks if Beryl has gone back to the village, but Henblitz informs her that Kuruni has taken him out to show him around the capital. Hearing this makes Alucia jealous, since she had also planned to do that as a date, and now she's kind of mad that Kuruni unintentionally stole her idea. The scene shifts to the crowded marketplace of the capital, where Beryl is currently strolling with Kuruni. There at the western side of the city, since Kuruni enjoys that part the most, but Beryl doesn't feel it. He wants to visit the northern area where the tourist spots like the palace and the church are located. In response, Kuruni tells him that only old farts from the sticks go to places like that and accidentally deals emotional damage to our poor fellow. At that moment, Feiss, yet another of Beryl's students, runs into him. At first, he fails to recognize her, which makes the pretend-to-be cat girl Feiss visibly sad. To jog his memory, she shows him the sword he gave her as a graduation gift, which finally makes him realize she's also one of his students who completed training at his dojo. After thinking for a good minute, he finally remembers her and apologizes for not recognizing her earlier, saying she's changed a lot. Feist mentions that she trained alongside Kuruni back when she was Beryl's student, and that it's been 5 years since her graduation. Kuruni, proud of her friend, excitedly tells Beryl that Feist is now the star of the magic corps, meaning she's both a talented mage and a swordsman. Kuruni asks Feist what she's doing here at the market, and Feist replies that she came to buy some magic accessories. She shows Beryl an artifact as an example, something that can produce fire magic. Apparently anyone can use these artifacts, but they're insanely expensive and definitely not something the average person can afford. However, Feist reveals that she doesn't need such tools, casually demonstrating her ability to cast magical spells on command. According to Beryl, very few people in this world can actually become wizards, so he can only imagine how much effort she's put in to become a mage. He feels proud of her, although he's a little upset at the thought that she might have left her swordsmanship behind. But that doesn't seem to be the case. He stands corrected when a thief suddenly snatches an old lady's purse and fights without missing a beat, imbues her sword with mana, and captures the thief with ease. She uses sword magic, combining both her swordsmanship and magical prowess, making her a one-of-a-kind mage. Beryl thanks her without really explaining why, but it's clear he's just relieved and glad to see that she hasn't abandoned the path of the sword. Being a villager at heart, Beryl wakes up before sunrise the next morning and heads out for an early stroll, munching on a loaf of bread. That's when he runs into someone suspicious loitering in an alleyway. It's yet another female character. What a surprise. She introduces herself as Lucy Diamond, the commander of the Magic Corps. Thankfully, she isn't one of his students. Judging by her unusually small height, Beryl assumes she's just a little missy pretending to be someone important. He even offers to escort her home, thinking she's lost. That alone infuriates her to the point where she has to prove herself. She summons fire from her hand on the spot, forcing Beryl to take her seriously. Now convinced, he lets her tag along on his morning walk, during which she explains why she approached him. Apparently, Feist couldn't stop bragging about him after their meeting yesterday, and that's what piqued Lucy's curiosity. She wanted to see for herself if he was as strong as Feist claimed. And now she's lured him to a fighting arena, eager to test out her full power against someone tougher than the usual scrubs. After all, chances like this don't come around often. Lucy unleashes a burst of fire on Beryl, but as he evades her attack, it makes her realize that this old man has some good reflexes. Beryl realizes that this old lady in a child's body isn't joking around either, so he draws his sword, ready to protect himself in this meaningless fight. He tries to reason with Lucy, telling her that he isn't as strong as she thinks he is, and there's no reason to drag this thing out anymore. But Lucy wants to find out his strength herself, and unleashes her flames upon him once again, which he barely dodges. She then switches her magic element to ice and launches large boulders of ice at him, all of which he slices down effortlessly. Realizing that Beryl is indeed strong, Lucy is about to unleash her next attack, and Beryl sees it as an opening, charging right at her with the intent to knock her out without harming her. Before she can realize, he closes the distance, but as he's about to strike her with his sword's hilt, she has no other option but to unleash her fire magic spell on herself to get him away from her. Surprisingly though, not even her clothes are burned, and she once again attacks Beryl with meteor-like flames. He evades all of them while almost losing his footing. This is his first time fighting against a witch, and it shows that he doesn't have any experience. Lucy keeps switching between ice and fire magic, and when Beryl gets used to those types of attacks, she uses a lightning spell to stop him from coming at her. With Beryl in the distance, Lucy gets serious and prepares for a move that's dark and ominous, making Beryl realize that if he's hit with her next attack, he will not live to see the day. But just as Lucy is about to release her ultimate attack, she stops herself, as she's more than satisfied with their fight already. Moreover, she didn't want Beryl to be turned into mincemeat, and that is why she held herself back. In any case, she now sees why Feist looks up to Beryl, but Beryl doesn't think he's strong or anything, stating that even after training all his life, he hasn't been able to beat his father once. Still, Lucy thinks Beryl's just being modest and laughs, realizing that she's been annoying him for no reason all this time. Now that they are both properly introduced, she invites him to come by her magic institute whenever he feels like it, promising to make it up to him for what she pulled today. Beryl agrees, even though he claims he has no reason to go there since he doesn't have any magical talents. As Lucy leaves, she gives Beryl the warning that if she learns a new magic spell, she will come at him again to test it out on him. Later at the Liberian Order, Beryl runs into Feis, who has come on business from the Magic Corps to drop off some potions for the Liberian Order. Beryl is glad to see that the knights use magic potions and states that he uses herbal potions because he cannot afford the good ones. Speaking of which, Feis wants to gift Beryl a bottle of magic potion, but Beryl cannot accept it as he thinks it's too expensive to be given to a worthless person like him. But Feis wants him to take it as an apology on behalf of Lucy for what she did to him early in the morning. Speaking of which, Beryl asks Lucy if that little girl is actually the commander of the Magic Corps, and Feis, replying in the affirmative, tells him that Lucy uses magic to look young and is so old that no one alive knows what her true age is. In any case, Feis apologizes to Beryl as she thinks she is responsible for everything since she was the one who told Lucy about him in the first place. Beryl tells Feis not to worry about it, and to make her feel less guilty, he takes the potion from her. In any case, he shares his experience with Feis, telling her how scared he was when Lucy kept hitting him with fire and ice, making him feel like he was going to get chopped into pieces if he made a single mistake. Feis states that Lucy is special because regular wizards cannot spam spells like her. Alucia comes over thanking Feis for delivering the potions and tells her to drop them off at the storage room. With Feis gone, Alucia brings Beryl to meet Serena, who wants him to help train new adventurers at her guild. She shows him the written request from the guildmaster himself, but Beryl first wants to know what kind of training she expects him to provide. Learning that he will be responsible for training them to prepare for raiding dungeons and dealing with emergencies. Beryl remembers the time back in his teenage days when he ventured into a dungeon alone, hoping to find treasures inside, only to run back out after getting beaten to a pulp by a monster. That's why he considers dungeons to be dangerous, not realizing that he's now strong enough to solo the most difficult dungeons out there. So Beryl refuses, not wanting young adventurers to suffer the same fate as him. But Serena insists, saying if he trains the new adventurers, they will become skilled and competent enough to not get hurt. To convince Beryl, Serena tells him to at least talk with the guildmaster first, and Alucia tells him to go ahead since there are no restrictions placed on special instructors. So Beryl heads to the Adventurers Guild with Serena, where he finds Lucy sitting in the guildmaster's office, who happens to be the guildmaster's old friend. Beryl, ignoring her existence, turns to the guildmaster Nidus, an old man with the scars of war on his face. Nidus welcomes Beryl and shakes his hand, saying he trusts him because their most treasured adventurer, Serena, has vouched for him. Beryl clarifies that he hasn't come to a decision yet, but both Nidus and Lucy are so dominating that Beryl has no choice but to give in. Nidus tells Beryl to ask his assistant Magon for the specifics of this job, but before Nidus can officially hire him, Magon intervenes, asking Beryl how he can entrust an amateur who has no record of ever raiding dungeons to train people on how to raid dungeons. Beryl is loving the disrespect as he wants out of this job, but Serena and Lucy, on the other hand, get offended. What Magon wants is to see Beryl duel Serena to prove whether he is as competent as the two ladies claim. Beryl, of course, isn't up for anything troublesome in his old age, but the rest of the group insists, so he fails to say no to them. As they get to the field for the fight, everyone is excited to know and see how it will end. They all know Serena to be a great gold-ranked adventurer who has gone on several adventures. For her age, she is someone with great intelligence and skill. Seeing how excited everyone is about the battle, Beryl is concerned. As usual, the dummy doesn't think he is good enough to have a duel with someone like that and even win. If I am being honest, I do not even think he wishes to win the fight. He doesn't want the job, so losing that fight will make it easy for him. On the other hand, Serena is very excited to have a duel with her master. She has waited for that day all the years of her life, and every day of her life she's appreciated him for all he did for her. Going into deep thoughts, she recalls the first day she met Beryl. On that fateful day, she was traveling with her parents, relocating to a new place. They were excited about the journey ahead of them, as they had several fruits which, if sold, would make it easy for them to settle down. As they spoke happily, a monster attacked them. Her parents knew there was no way they would survive the fight, and at a time like that, the best they could do was to make sure their daughter was safe. They threw her into a ditch and she closed her eyes, expecting to meet her savior. Well, she didn't meet her savior in heaven, but she met one on earth. Just like the Good Samaritan, Beryl took it upon himself to take her home. He took care of her until she woke up. When she opened her eyes, he gave her food and asked about her parents, wondering why she was alone there. That question was one she didn't feel like answering. It triggered her memory of what had happened to her, and she started crying. He left her alone, and some days later he told his parents that she wasn't ready to speak, and they had to wait for her. She later came around, started eating with them, but she still didn't talk with them at home. One morning she woke up early and saw Beryl training outside the house. He noticed her and asked her to join him. She joined him and they trained together for several days. She trained with him. When he opened his training center, she watched as every other student entered excitedly to train. He saw her and signaled for her to come. She joined the class that day. One day he saw her training and noticed she was very fast. He told her she could use twin swords. That was the beginning of Serena and her twin swords. Unfortunately for her, she was adopted by new parents and had to leave. She cried on her way because she wanted to stay there forever, but she would be an inconvenience. Several years later, she became a gold-ranked adventurer. She took a walk with a friend who asked her why she decided to become an adventurer. She claimed it was because she wanted to see the world. Some gang members attacked them on the way, and before her friend could talk, she jumped down and sliced them into two. She thought about her major aim for being there. The first reason she became an adventurer was to ensure that no one else went through the bad fate she had gone through, while her second reason was to make her master proud. At the moment she is on the field with that same master having a duel against him. She thinks about how much she had wanted to show him how good she had become, and she tells him that it has been 20 years since she left him, and now he will know that she had trained well. She bows to greet before the fight, the same way she was taught to greet in his school. He realizes she hasn't forgotten all the lessons he gave her, and he is excited. He sees her excitement and decides that even if he wants to reject the job by losing to her, she is excited to fight him and ready to give it her all, so he must give her his all too. They begin the fight. She flies as high as the sky and jumps at him with her twin swords. He dodges the attack. She comes at him repeatedly and he dodges them. One thing he can't deny is that she is fast. Her speed is just like that of Usain Bolt. He is glad that she kept up with her training because if she didn't train, she couldn't be that good. However, he notices a loophole in her attack and decides to leverage that loophole to win. He attacks her for the first time, using his sword to hold her left hand. Then, when she loses her balance, he uses his leg to sweep her off the floor. She falls down and he wins. He holds her hand to help her up, and she appreciates him for fighting against her. Everyone watching claps for him, since they know it isn't an easy feat to win against Serena. Nidus comes there and appreciates him for accepting their job, and Megan apologizes to him for doubting his ability in the first place. He appreciates their kind comments about his skills, but he is angry that he couldn't reject the job. He leaves with Serena for the adventure, and he meets the 3 adventurers he will be training. They introduce themselves as Porta, Nidri, and Sarlacats. As they enter the dungeon, Sarlacats sees 6 monsters coming through his magic notifier. He immediately jumps in to fight with his colleagues. Seeing them fight, Beryl is glad that he won't have to do much since they aren't bad themselves. Let us hope he is right. Within seconds, they have completely cleared all the monsters in the dungeon. They proceed to leave, but Serena is concerned. She says it is a dungeon that should have several monsters, but she is shocked it is so few. Her suspicions turn out to be right. Suddenly, Sarlacat's notifier tries to alert him about a monster, but the watch breaks down immediately. That explains how strong that monster is. He screams to Porta, who is almost at the door, to run. But it is too late as the monster uses the tip of his finger to push Porta away, and he is injured. The monster roars so loudly that their feet shake on the floor. Serena recognizes the monster as a specially designed target called Xenograble. She realizes that is the reason low-level monsters aren't in the dungeon. Beryl stands in front of the monster to fight it. Will he win? The monster they are facing is a legendary eagle beast, and it finally makes sense Serena why no monsters were nearby. Beryl was only here for sightseeing, so now that he has to fight against this brute, it feels like he has been struck with some real bad luck. Before engaging the beast, Beryl confirms that Serena has magic potions with her and comes up with a plan to feed the potions to Porta, who is injured, while Serena draws the beast's attention toward her. But as he spreads his hands towards Serena, she, instead of handing him the potions, mistakes his signal to mean that he wants to fight the beast himself. She thanks Beryl for taking the lead and rushes off to help Porta instead. Beryl is mortified by the sudden change in the situation, but he does not have the time to clear up their misunderstanding. The monster charges at him and he barely manages to dodge it. He parries the beast's furious swipes with his sword, and after defending against the relentless attacks for about a minute, he finds a small opening and strikes the beast in the leg. However, the beast's skin turns out to be as hard as rock, and this makes Beryl realize that he stands no chance in a straight fight. In the distance, he sees Serena heading into the cave, carrying Porta, and feels slightly relieved. The only thing left for Beryl to do now is to buy them some more time to escape, but right at that moment the beast slams into him, wounding his left arm. Beryl knows there is no beast in this world that is truly invincible, and suspecting this one must have a weakness too, he bets on the idea that its head is its vulnerable spot. He charges at the beast, aiming for its face. But just as he closes in, the beast breathes fire, the blast almost grazing Beryl and reducing the trees behind him to dust. Beryl, who had no idea that this beast could use such a dangerous magical attack or magic at all, is now certain that he cannot fight it head-on. Still, he cannot run either because the monster would catch up instantly with its swift speed. Left with no choice, he continues defending himself. Finally, the beast makes a mistake by swinging its tail at him, and Beryl seizes the moment to sever its tail with a precise strike. However, losing the tail barely slows the beast down. Instead, it only drives it into a deeper raid. The beast launches a more fearsome fire attack, blasting Beryl and sending him flying. He lands on his feet, but the beast does not stop there. Tackles him head-on, sending him crashing through dozens of trees. Mid-tackle, Beryl keeps his composure and manages to climb onto the beast's back. In an attempt to throw him off, the beast flies into the sky at supersonic speed. Beryl barely manages to hold on, but surprisingly, he impresses the beast enough that it returns to the ground where they were originally fighting. Once back, the beast releases a deafening roar, generating a massive amount of heat that literally turns the ground beneath them into lava. Beryl climbs to higher ground, keeping himself safe for the moment, but the lava starts spreading toward the cave, reaching the spot where Porta and the others are hiding. The not-so-important side characters drag Porta away from the incoming lava, and while they briefly feel hope, thinking they can outrun it, the situation gets even worse as the roof of the cave also begins to melt under the insane temperature. Beryl realizes that if he allows the beast to generate any more heat, everyone is going to die. So he courageously leaps back into the beast's domain, dodging all of its attacks, and upon closing in, stabs the beast in its eye. Beryl's sword shatters at that moment, leaving him completely defenseless. But just in time, Serena drops down from above, landing squarely on top of the beast, slamming it hard into the ground, and then slaying its head in one powerful strike. Finally, putting an end to this catastrophe, it is clear that Serena is on a whole different level, but she gives the credit to Beryl, saying she was only able to take the monster down thanks to Beryl's efforts. She also apologizes to Beryl for not arriving sooner as his sword ended up breaking, but Beryl does not care about that. He is far more concerned about Porta, and Serena assures him that Porta is just fine. Moments later, the three liabilities come out of the cave, and Beryl is relieved to see that they are all okay. Later, they return to the Adventurers Guild and show the Guildmaster Nidus, the dead beast. Both Nidus and his assistant are impressed because defeating a named beast that is a specially designated target of the kingdom is an incredible feat, not to mention the fact that Serena and Beryl were able to do so while protecting the three new recruits at the same time. Serena does not miss the chance to praise Beryl, claiming that if Beryl had not been there, they would all be 6 feet under. Nidus wants to repay Beryl for saving them from a tragedy, but Beryl does not say anything. The only thing he wants is to get out of this place as soon as possible. Shortly after, both Beryl and Serena head out. Serena apologizes to Beryl again, taking the blame for everything that happened, admitting that all of this was because she kept hyping him up and singing his praises. Yet at the same time, she still believes deep down that Beryl is super strong, and she expresses how grateful she is to have gotten the chance to fight alongside him in a life-or-death battle. Beryl knows he does not deserve any praise. He thanks Serena for saving everyone and expresses how proud he is to have taught her swordsmanship back when she was just a kid. Serena is touched by Beryl's words and recalls the time she spent training under him. As the time comes for them to part ways, She reveals to us that what she truly wishes for is to rewind time and relive those moments again with her dear master. Following that adventure, Beryl's sword is broken and he needs to see a blacksmith to repair it, or better still, get a new one. As a master with several students eager to get in his favor, you can imagine how many of them would be interested in helping him. Without stress, Kuruni volunteers to take him to a blacksmith, and Alucia insists on coming along too. Left with no choice, he agrees to go with them. On their way, he appreciates Kuruni for volunteering, but wonders why Alucia decided to come as well. She doesn't have a job at the night yet, but she insists on going. She thinks about her reason Kuruni had taken him on a tour around the city, and Serena was the one who got him a place to stay. She feels she hasn't done anything to help him since he arrived, and this makes her feel bad. Beryl asks her what she's thinking, but she's too embarrassed to say it out loud. He also wonders why they're going to such a faraway blacksmith, but Kuruni refuses to tell him. When they arrive at their destination, the voice of the blacksmith sounds familiar. When Beryl looks closer, he realizes it's Balder. He screams in excitement. What a great reunion! It turns out Balder was also a student at his dojo. At this point, I feel left out. I must be the only one who wasn't his former student. Balder had attended the school because he wanted to be a blacksmith, and believed that to succeed, he needed to know how to use a sword. So despite being older than the other students, he joined them and trained alongside them. They reunite happily while Alucia feels left out because she wasn't there when Balder was a student. Kuruni asks Balder to repair her sword, but when he examines it, he says it's beyond repair. They wonder why her sword spoils so easily. Beryl asks how she feels when she holds a sword, and she admits it feels light. He realizes the problem. She's stronger than the sword. He immediately recommends a new sword for her, assuring her she can wield it better as someone who trusts her master. She accepts the sword and tries it out, and she confirms that he's right. It's now time for Beryl to pick his own sword. Everyone keeps giving him advice, while Alucia thinks he should get a sword custom-made just for him. Beryl thinks he doesn't deserve that much. A real dummy. As he checks the ready-made swords, Serena arrives. What a great reunion. She comes with a big sack and everyone wonders what's inside. When she opens it, it turns out to be the remains of the monster they had killed. She says she wants to make a long sword from it, but Balder wonders what an adventurer needs a long sword for. Serena immediately drops the bombshell. The sword isn't for her, it's for Beryl. Beryl refuses to believe he deserves it. He argues against it. Alucia also insists that if anyone should buy him a sword, it should be her. She argues, disguising the fact that it's the knight who would be gifting it. The master is confused. I would be too. He asks Balder for advice, and Balder recommends making a sword from the monster remains. Seeing that all the points move favorably towards Serena, Beryl finally agrees. She is excited, while Alucia looks disappointed. When will she eventually be able to do something for him? Balder, on the other hand, is excited. He gets to make a sword from a named monster. That's a huge feat. He's so excited that Beryl has to tell him not to make the sword too big. Beryl realizes that the reason Balder supported him accepting Serena's gift wasn't because he cared about Beryl or Serena. It was because he wanted the honor of making the first sword from a named monster. Wait, what was he thinking before? Balder excitedly asks for a week to finish the masterpiece he wants to craft from the monster. Since their business there is done, they head home. Kuruni looks at Beryl inquisitively, as if she needs something from him. He immediately figures out what she wants. She needs someone to teach her how to use her new sword. He takes her for training and teaches her how to draw the sword from the hip. As she trains, Beryl watches her. He recalls that drawing from the hip is the foundation of all his student training, and he is shocked that Kuruni still remembers it. I believe he leaves such a lasting mark on his students. That's why they can't forget him. After the training, Beryl is exhausted. He goes to drink, but the drink doesn't even hit the spot because of his tiredness. He takes comfort in the fact that his students are doing well. He pays for his drink and leaves. He's drunk, his eyes red, and he feels sleepy. Who else would be a better target for a pickpocket than someone like him? A pickpocket approaches with the intention to steal, but Beryl is way smarter than that. He holds her hand and asks why she's stealing. He hears her voice and realizes she's a child concerned. He tries to ask her questions, but she uses magic against him and disappears. While Beryl remains in shock, the girl walks home to her masters. She drops all the money she stole. Though it's much less than she usually brings, they doubt her integrity, questioning if she's slacking off on her job. She doesn't respond, but one of them says she can't afford to slack off because she has to earn her keep. They reveal that her name is Mui. Suddenly, Mui feels something missing from her. She checks her neck. Her chain is gone. Meanwhile, Beryl sees the chain on the floor and pick it up. He admits he has a bad relationship with flames, but wonders what he'll eventually do with it. What will he do with it? And with that, we have come to the end of this part. Stay tuned for next part. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell to receive all the latest updates.